Today on Context, just how much privacy should we be entitled to online? Government Minister Vic Toews, online child protectors, and privacy advocates all weigh in on worries about Big Brother surfing alongside us. I'm Lorna Dueck, and you're watching Context, the show that looks at life beyond the headlines. With just 10 words,
you can either stand with us or with the child pornographers.
The entire country has been plunged into a national debate over online privacy and the threat of warrantless access to IP addresses. In this case, I believe Bill C30 is needed to protect children, but I am in the minority. Is this a clear-cut, black and white issue? What are the checks and balances in place for your internet privacy and for the protection of children? Let's put it in context. Our first guest experienced the worst of humanity and online abuse. At 13, Alicia Kozakiewicz agreed to meet an internet friend in person. He abducted, raped, and tortured her for 4 days in front of an online audience. One online viewer reported it. Alicia was rescued and founded the Alicia Project, an organization committed to protecting children from online exploitation. She joins us from Pittsburgh. Alicia, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
How did you feel knowing your abuser had bragged of his crime and posted it online?
I wasn't aware of him, of the monster, sharing my videos and images until after I was rescued. And it was re-victimization. I was completely re-victimized because of that and powerless.
And it was another online viewer who reported those pictures to the FBI, which was part of how you got rescued. How did you feel about others who were viewing that crime?
Awful. It's disgusting to think that people could sit there and watch a child being abused and gain pleasure from it, and these people must be stopped.
You're studying psychology. You want to be a crime investigator that stops this. Why do you think the volume of online abuse is so massive?
Child pornography, from my understanding, didn't used to be quite so heinous. And as time rolls on, it's going into far more sadistic crimes of children, of babies on changing tables. And people are becoming more desensitized, more evil from viewing these disgusting videos.
Should we make it easier for police to patrol online child abuse?
We should absolutely make it easier for police to patrol online child abuse. They have the ability to stop the crime, to stop abuse. We have a window into the world of child sexual abuse, of what predators are doing, and we can stop it. We can save these kids, and these children must be saved. They must be saved from the hell.
How do you feel about that debate of my privacy versus police access?
From my personal perspective and my personal story, that is how I was rescued through the Patriot Act. They were able to obtain his IP address from just a screen name, and the IP address led them to his front door and led them directly to me and to saving me.
Alicia, you've done a lot of thinking about this. You also talked about praying for rescue. How do you feel the idea of God looking out and caring for vulnerable children weighs in on all of this debate, weighed in on your story?
It's huge. When I was abducted, I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed. And I received a miracle. God was looking out for me, and I feel that He saved me for a reason. And that's why I'm here today, speaking out to children, sharing my story wherever I can, because I was rescued for a reason.
And you do this almost every week, don't you? You speak out against the evils of online child abuse.
Do it quite frequently. I pretty much to anybody who will listen.
Alicia Kozakiewicz, thank you for joining us from Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
Now, a Canadian perspective after Alicia's view. Former police officer and pioneer of legal protection against online child abuse, Paul Gillespie, is in our audience. Paul, thank you. You are going to be on later in the program as well. But As the child exploitation section of the Toronto Police, you left your job. Why?
The volume and the types of images and movies that were being depicted involving very young children being horrifically brutalized, it wore me out. So I wanted to stay involved, but I just couldn't do the day-to-day work anymore.
Just tell us what we do say when we're talking about defining what child pornography is. People think it's just teenagers flashing around. It's very different, isn't it?
Yeah, criminal code defines it as under 18 years of age, picture involving a sex act or the focus of the picture on the genitalia of a child. The reality in our world is that the average age in regards to child pornography now is about 4 or 5 years old, and these are very young children being horrifically brutalized. It's not frolicking, it's not consensual, it's not a morality issue, it's horrific abuse.
Okay. Paul Gillespie, stay with us because we're going to bring you back with the current officer in charge of this area in Ontario. And we'll hear from that later. But now it's time to find out what you think. Would you give up your online privacy to help authorities stop online child exploitation? Yes or no? Please send us your answers using the information there on the screen. I'd love to know what you think, so be part of the conversation. Our studio audience is taking a live vote, and I'll have those results when we come back. Well, we've just heard the scope of the problem of online child exploitation. It's out of control. The government proposed a solution in its controversial Child Predators Act, Bill C30, and the public said, no way. Well, what are we willing to change to protect children, and what to do about that problem with Public Safety Minister Vic Toews? That's next.
We want you to be a part of our studio audience. If you're in the Toronto area, contact us.
Next time on Context, turning tragedy into advocacy. How a young woman awaiting a double lung transplant is getting people to talk and tweet about organ donation. That's on the next Context.
Life beyond the headlines. It's what Context with Lorna Dewitt brings you week in and week out. Context doesn't shrink away from faith issues. In fact, we embrace the conversation. We help you think it through in a new way, and then you decide what you think. We're donor supported, and we need your help to make more programs like the one you're watching today. Call us at 1-866-315-2080 to make your gift. That's 1-866-315-2080.
Subscribe to our podcast. Keep the conversation going throughout your day.
Before the break, we asked our studio audience this question. Would you give up your online privacy to help authorities stop online child exploitation? And here's how they voted. 79% said yes. We are discussing the controversy over the proposed Bill C30, the Online Child Predators Act. The discussion was catapulted into the spotlight with a now famous statement from our next guest. Joining me now from Ottawa is Public Safety Minister Vic Toews. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Few things you have done in your long public life have got the volume of criticism that Bill C30 has. That statement, either with us or with child pornographies, police agree with you, the public does not. Your words were interpreted as a national insult. Have you regrets?
Well, let's make this clear here. When the Liberals brought in the bill, and the comment was directed at the Liberals because they're the ones who flipped on the position. When they brought in the bill, they said this bill was intended to protect Canadian children against child pornographers. Then we have the mystery of them standing up and saying, we're not supporting the bill. My comment to the Liberals in the context of a House vote makes perfect sense.
Okay, is anything going to change? The hot button issue in this bill is giving police warrantless access to our internet addresses, to who owns that computer. Is that going to change?
Well, in fact, the bill doesn't give warrantless access. There is nothing in Bill C30 that changes the substantive law in respect of access to private communications, whether it's emails or whether it's following somebody doing web searches. The legislation simply updates the language of the law to accommodate the new reality of the internet. The debate that we're having today on C-30 happened in all of the countries that have passed this same legislation. All other Western democracies have this legislation. Canada stands by itself in that respect. And so the issue is one of simply bringing Canada up to these standards. But the same debate occurred 40 years ago when we talked about wiretap. Exactly the same debate.
So you're not changing anything significant in this bill. It's going to carry on.
Well, what we have indicated to the public is that we are going to bring the bill back to the House, to a committee, prior to second reading. Usually it happens after second reading. What this means is that there can be a full examination of the bill, and indeed amendments can be made that are beyond the scope of the bill, which cannot be done after second reading. So we're giving a lot of discretion to the possibility of amendments. But to date, I have not yet been able to understand exactly what the concern is, given that the bill in its present form does not allow for warrantless access to private communications. Indeed, what the bill does is simply reintroduce the old Liberal bill, which the Liberals brought in, as I mentioned earlier, back in 2005, and then add certain privacy safeguards for individuals. We have improved not only the privacy safeguards, but accountability. And remember, Lorna, this is a bill that every single Attorney General and Public Safety Minister in this country asked our federal government to do. 2 weeks before I introduced the bill into the House, they specifically at a national conference said, please proceed with this bill, and that's what I did.
All right. Minister Toews, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Adding to the discussion, we go now to Edmonton, where Alberta's Privacy Commissioner Jill Clayton is standing by. Commissioner, thank you for joining us. What about the way this debate has unfolded? Has there been enough discussion about stopping online child abuse?
Has there been enough discussion? Well, I think there has been a lot of discussion in the last couple of weeks. I think that discussion has been primarily focused on Bill C30 itself and what it purports to do, which is to expand police powers to address increasing online criminal activity. I don't think there has been enough discussion about whether or not this new legislation is truly needed, the necessity for it, how practically effective it will be. I think there's some confusion out there about exactly what is contained in the bill and what the effects of it will be.
So as a privacy commissioner, what are your concerns about Bill C30?
This legislation has been proposed previously. This is the next iteration of the legislation. I think that in some ways this version is an improvement on previous versions. For example, the number of subscriber data elements that police would be able to obtain from the telecommunication service providers, that the telecommunication service providers would be required to provide, has been reduced. This new bill has some additional audit capabilities or reporting functions that I think are valuable. But the outstanding issue that I think the public and certainly privacy commissioners across Canada are concerned about is what has been referred to as warrantless access to the subscriber information.
And Jill, if I can just ask you, let's just stop on that, because that is the sticking point for everyone. But we have the very recent example where 60 warrants were done in Ontario, 60 arrests made, 22 children found and released out of child pornography situations. It wasn't practical to get the other 5,000 plus warrants needed. What do you say to that kind of gaping hole in the ability to pursue the huge volumes that are out there on child porn?
I think that, again, what I keep hearing are sort of one-off situations and unfortunate situations.
5,400
well,
computers aren't one-off situations.
No, and I do understand that, but what I have been hearing also from law enforcement and from the telecommunications service providers is that existing laws do allow the TSPs to provide information to law enforcement. That is how the existing laws have been designed. And then I do hear that there are concerns about delays and in a small percentage of cases, the information might not be provided to law enforcement in as timely a manner as they would prefer. And I think there are concerns. Those are valid concerns. But I'm not sure that Bill C30, taking away the ability of the telecommunications service providers to control the provision of information, which doesn't seem to have been a significant problem except in a small percentage of cases, Bill C30 might be overkill. What I haven't seen is compelling evidence that the problem is really understood, that this broad expansion of police powers is in fact necessary and proportionate and practically effective.
So in your estimation, what would be a good solution?
Well, I think if there are administrative concerns about obtaining judicial warrants or the timeliness of the warrants, or perhaps telecommunications service providers that don't understand that they do now have the ability to voluntarily provide information to law enforcement if law enforcement is engaged in some sort of offense investigation, then there are administrative solutions to that, or at least there should be some discussion to see what other less privacy intrusive alternatives there might be, rather than going, as I said, with this broad expansion of police powers.
Which the crux of it is allowing police to look at the address registry without having a warrant.
Well, that is the crux of it, and taking away the ability of the telecommunications service providers to have discretion to respond.
Okay.
Which they have now.
All right. Commissioner Jill Clayton, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorna.
Next, what can we change to stop the proliferation of child exploitation online without compromising privacy? More with Paul Gillespie. He works to protect young people from online exploitation.
You've seen Lorna Dewitt tackle the issues and stories that shape the news headlines. Now in this exclusive offer, you can start your own conversation. 4 of Context's hottest topics are now available on a special DVD, complete with 4 individual study guides. The incredible story of survival. Rita Crenchian lost in the Nevada wilderness for 49 days.
What did you eat? Well, the first week I still had a little bit of trail mix.
Sex, God, and sex education.
I don't think sex makes love, I think sex makes babies.
From homeless to helping thousands, Pat Nixon shares his story of finding home.
Taught me how to take care of myself.
Plus, a multimillionaire giving ex-cons a second chance.
Canadians viscerally have a problem with incarceration for long periods of time.
Including the complete unedited interview with Bruxy Cavey not previously seen on TV. Each episode comes with its own study guide for a comprehensive look at each topic in both digital and printed copies. This special offer is available for just $15.99 plus $4 shipping and handling. To order your copy today, call 1-866-315-2080. Take Context with you wherever you go.
You're watching Context, the show that looks at life beyond the headlines.
Subscribe to our podcast or download the video to your handheld device. Keep the conversation going throughout your day, always in context. Call us, email us, tweet, or Facebook us to join the conversation. We want to hear from you.
Our next 2 guests work on the front lines in targeting and stopping online child predators. Paul Gillespie is a former police officer and built and led the child exploitation section of the Toronto Police Service Sex Crimes Unit. He's now the founder and CEO of the Kids Internet Safety Alliance, and Inspector Scott Naylor with the Child Sex Exploitation Unit of the OPP. Gentlemen, thank you both for doing the work you do and being with us. Scott, let's start with you. How do police catch online porn, child porn predator?
Well, we have some very innovative computer programming and some very talented IT people who are writing programs every day to keep ahead of these child pornographers and the people who are trading this online.
Okay, it's not working. You're not keeping up with the volume. Just give us an idea. I shouldn't say it's not working, sorry. You haven't got the labor to keep up with the volume. Give us an idea, even as something as significant as February's bust, where you had we had 6,000 computers that were carrying child porn.
There was not 9,000 just for a very short period of time. It was more than 6,000. It was 9,000. We are making a difference. However, we have limited budgets and limited resources in order to do this. So we're looking for as much assistance as we can possibly get. We're engaging, like our partners at Kinza, and we're engaging the public to help us with this as well. There's a proliferation of child pornography on the internet, and it's worldwide. But we're doing the best that we possibly can.
Okay, Paul, you told us earlier in the program that you switched careers because the sheer volume had just worn you out as a police officer. You now hear the inflamed rhetoric, you saw it on our opening clip in our show, of people saying, don't touch my internet, even if child porn is happening out there. What do you say to that very defensive, public, resounding voice?
I believe the way that the message has been passed on to the public, I understand their discomfort with this particular issue. The history of this bill is we started looking into this 15 years ago, originally introduced by the Liberals. It's been batted around, re-messaged, re-everythinged, and we're not much closer now because of the challenges. My own opinion is that if we do need to look at some parts of the bill and massage them slightly to give people a greater comfort level, then we should do that. But this bill needs to get passed.
The big hang-up in it, that everyone's worried about Big Brother, is this idea that police can go in without a warrant and say to an internet service provider, I want to know whose computer that is throwing those child porn pictures across. That's it, right?
That's it.
And Scott, how can you assure us you won't abuse that and then say, I want to find out where she's protesting or whatever else she's doing online?
We don't have the power to go in and see what they're doing. We're only asking for the power to find out who owns what they call the customer name and address. We only want to know who owns that internet, that IP address.
And
that's
why
all.
do you need to do that without a warrant?
Well, we need to do that without a warrant because it's a cyclical step. We have to do Part A to go to Part B to go to Part C. And if we have to apply for a search warrant, we have to establish all of our grounds right in the very beginning just to know who this person is. And I can draw an analogy to a license plate of a car. That's all it does is tell us who the customer is, where the customer lives, and where the internet or the IP address goes to. That's all it is.
Okay, we have people in the studio audience wanting to address this with you both. Let's see, you've got a question about this.
Yes. So some of my understanding is that this information is done without a warrant, but you're also saying that it means that it's only for certain pieces of information you'd be able to get. Would this also be someone's full browsing history, or what kind of how large could this amount of information that's secured actually be?
Okay, Scott, accountability on that.
With Bill C30, all that we're asking for is the internet service provider to provide us with what we call the CNA, the customer name and address. That's all. It doesn't go into the browsing history or anything on your that you've done on the internet. I can't read your emails. Law enforcement can't see your browsing history. That all requires judicial oversight, which is a search warrant.
Okay, but the worry is it will be abused. Paul, do we have examples of this in Canadian culture where police are abusing their authorities online?
Not in this particular instance, and I'd just like to say that the specific part of the law that we're trying to get put in place is already in place in the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand, and there is judicial oversight because it's the start of a court process. So at some point, a trier of fact is going to have to make the determination whether police acted in good faith.
So you're saying the safety checks, the balances, the judicial oversight, it's in place already. This can't be abused. This is to track child pornographers. If we're not passing online abuse, we have nothing to worry about.
Absolutely. And
you want to see this kind of increased powers. Canada's behind that.
I want to see this, but again, I recognize the discomfort level with citizens. So if we need to talk about it, to massage it a little bit, to give it a little more oversight or a little more overt judicial approval somehow, I'm personally okay with that. But we need to get this done. I just don't want it to die on the vine.
Okay. Scott, I just want to ask you, as the police officer in charge of this, how much of the child pornography that's going out there, the online abuse, are we stopping? Give me an analogy if you'd like.
Not enough. not nearly enough. I could have 100 officers working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we wouldn't be catching what we need to catch. There's victims out there that are being abused every single day, and every victim that we're not getting to is another victim that is suffering.
Okay. Well, thank you for helping us try to elevate the debate and ask some of the tough questions about what is and is not to be feared in Bill C-30 and the changes. It does now go to committee. It will be discussed. You heard Minister Toews say there may be some minor changes that are made. But thank you. We'll stay tuned with this. Thank you both for your good work.
Thank you.
Next, I tried and failed at a national debate, and here's why I'm going to give it another shot. That's after this. Next time on Context, turning tragedy into advocacy. How a young woman awaiting a double lung transplant is getting people to talk and tweet about organ donation. That's on the next Context.
We asked what you thought, and this is what you said.
When she talked about human trafficking and the society's value of little girls in the Far Eastern countries, how frightening to be female in those countries.
You know, she's talking about that woman who burnt herself, and she's quite beautiful on the inside. That's where beauty comes from the inside, and I guess that's what she's seen. She didn't see them scars, right?
Today's audience members will receive a complimentary book from the Faith Family Books and Gift Store. For your chance to get a free book, send us your feedback on today's show. Call our viewer feedback line, send us an email, or leave a video message. We're on Facebook and Twitter at Context TV.
Well, in the Christian tradition, society is challenged to make sacrifices to protect vulnerable people from harm. And we're at one of those moments on internet privacy demands. When 22 children are rescued in 1 month from online abuse in just my province alone, but over 9,000 computers carrying their abuse escape the law, something has to change. And yes, I'm asking for less in online privacy. It means we push hard on our existing systems of police and government accountability, which are trustworthy, and so we push hard on due diligence. We've got the legal systems to protect our privacy. What we don't have is the answer for the rapidly growing volume of online child perpetrators. If we don't get this right, more children will be violated. And I encourage you to listen and support the government debate on this issue. There's more on our website. You can read about my column there, some of the feedback, the support from the police and the naysayers, but all the links are there for you. So learn, and we'd love to hear your feedback on today's episode. Call the viewer feedback line, send an email, or leave a video message. I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and we'd love to know your opinions. I'm Lorna Dueck. Thanks for watching. Join us next week as we explore life beyond the headlines.